I do not endorse anything said in this stream.
Sometimes you don't boomer a stream, and sometimes you do. Hey guys, what's going on? But have you ever noticed that certain folks just kind of around this internet stuff and things, some folks you really like, they kind of seem to disappear. Sometimes they take a break for a while, and you're wondering why. It's like, oh, these are good people. I love seeing them on, like, with my other internet friends and everything. And you're just wondering, it's like, where'd these people go? It's like, you start talking to these folks and, well, you start hearing some stuff.
Though I know I should be wary, still I venture someplace scary. Ghostly haunting, I turn loose. Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice!
Hail, friends. Welcome to where we say nice things you want to hear and not nice things about people you dislike. Why? Because we are us. They are them. They are not with us. So obviously they speak things we don't like. But I'm just, you ever watch something and it just kind of seems awkward? And you're like, I know a lot of these people. I like a lot of these. I really like a lot of these people. And you're just watching, you're like, is that genuine? I mean, I don't know. It's Elon Musk said something a while ago about that one of the problems in these United States was the MBMAization of the country. What does that mean? Well, all I know is my dad's told me for a while, you should go grab your MBA. I stopped at a bachelor's, which technically I did a 5-year plan. I never finished the last class. And then came back and then did class, and it was totally worth it. It was fun. Those are different stories. Focus memes. Now, as far as it all goes, I'm just looking at this and I'm like, I start to notice things and I'm like, all right, no, that's good. As far as production value, it's like, all right, you spend your time. Like I'm not doing right now and going through the chat. Why? Because people like attention. It's going to increase watch time. That's what it's based off of. But with that being said, shout outs to my patrons, Joe Franco and Dave M. This broadcast is helped made possible by viewers like you, as well as we have the infamous Parrot as well. I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for squirrels. As well as we do have Tim as well. And yes, for blatant obligatory reasons and narcissism, yes. No, I did clean up the face a little bit. But what is this all about? I've been hearing stuff and things for a while, and again, you very often hear it behind quote unquote closed digital doors. You see it in DMs. Well, somebody said something, somebody did something. Welcome to the internet. I apologize for that because, well, I told Lex Friedman that when he popped on Discord one day, and then I think he started to huff a puff a little bit, and then everyone was like, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, well, he was complaining about mean words on the internet. Now, I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not a big fan of mean words on the internet, but I also grew up with the whole meme of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's like, why does it seem that I see a whole bunch of people saying that you shouldn't care about mean words on the internet, and all of a sudden, a short time later, I hear, well, I say people saying, can you believe the mean words said about me on the internet? No, again, I acknowledge that words can be very hurtful to people. I totally get that. That's why very often I happen to be in some chats, I'll hear somebody say something that, oh, that doesn't sound quite right to me. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to push back a bit. It's like, I don't need to call the other person an evil human being or something like that. I'm just like, now, play nice. Some people choose to acknowledge it. Some people don't. Hey, it's comment like Almond Joy. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자. But this is the same thing that I've seen again and again and again. I'm actually not even pointing any direct fingers at anybody here. I haven't even named which community. The terrible thing is, what I'm saying right now can actually be applied to, I think, a lot of the communities I associate with on YouTube. And again, very often, I'm whatever insert community adjacent. Why? Well, I'll see things I like. I'll see people that I like. I'll follow some of these people. I'll interact with these people. Why? Because I like these people. But there are some other folks there that I'm like, you know what? You seem to kind of be in, oh, here comes a lefty in me, a position of power or heavy influence within a community. And I'm like, you're acting like an asshole. I'm not the biggest fan of that. It's like, yeah, I get it. Rage candy, it gets clicks. You get money. It's been the business model for a while. But just because you can, does it mean you should? I mean, if you just want to run it like a business, I mean, I guess, isn't that what like the news has been doing for a while now? Don't they always say that if it bleeds, it leads? You got to have the most salacious thing. It's like, insert person we like destroys group we dislike. Bunch of views. And then you'll have folks that'll go and be like, well, I didn't do that. It's like, okay. Did you discourage it? Well, no. Well, why didn't you discourage it? because they're on my side. I don't want to say anything to the people that are helping me when they're doing things that might not always be the greatest things. And there's nothing wrong with getting ideas out there. It's just like, all right, well, if you truly believe something, you can explain your point. You can actually articulate or communicate and go to sources and cite them. And they're usually, hopefully, more than just opinion. I'm just saying that I remember Tim Pool a while ago. He's on Joe Rogan. It's like, well, look at this thing. It's like, well, that's an opinion. And Tim Pool's like, does it say that there? He's like, well, no. And then I watched Tim Pool, who actually had little blurbs that was discussing the story he had. He actually had the links to his articles and stuff in the description. And now he just makes videos that he feels like talking about, which is more or less the same description. I remember messaging him back in the day. Would you be willing to lead the charge by labeling your opinion videos opinion? He's like, well, people know it's my opinion. When you say so-and-so, quote unquote, nukes from orbit, do people know that's your opinion? Or is that just hyperbole, marketing? I'm just saying, from a dude that spent upwards of a decade in corporate sales, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It's just me again. I am a terrible dragonkin. Welcome, deranged lunatic. Welcome, deranged. And Joe, I honestly, just after speaking those words, I feel like I should push back on that to not just go in with the whole thing, but yeah, it's variable outrage. I am so offended about what these people did right here. Why? Well, it happened to be trending on Twitter. It happens to be a hot topic. Let's jump on the outrage train. Why? Because Ozzy Osbourne once said, we're going off the rails on a crazy train, and we should obviously try to make as much money as possible. Why? Hashtag capitalism. This is the thing. You know what, Tim? I've actually heard that a fair bit, and I actually do like the conversation because dude, I'll be straight up. It's like I am literally a recovering news junkie. I listen to all of Tim Pool's videos, and then I will actually listen to probably a large majority of his life. It's too much. It's too much. It's just the world is always ending. And then I'll pop in a stream about science. They're talking about all these fancy math things and stuff that I don't understand, but I'm like, feels more like my mind works. It's rather than hate this, hate that. Because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things in the world that we do need to correct. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. My question is, how much time, effort, and billions, if not more, of currency and stuff are we spending actually fighting amongst ourselves rather than actually trying to make progress? How much money was spent in the past couple of presidential elections? Billions? How much of it was actually promoting something useful? If Andrew Yang was trying to pitch something, you might completely disagree with the dude, but at least he was pitching something. What are other people pitching? Oh, outrage. We call them ad hominem attacks. What's an ad hom attack? An ad hom attack is basically when you go after a person's character rather than the argument, because it's much easier to say, you're an evil person, therefore you're bad, so we don't need to listen to you. I don't care where a good idea comes from. It's like some of the greatest ideas, some of the things that have literally brought, probably the things we're actually utilizing right now on this internet, probably brought by some people that held some pretty nefarious positions. I'm just saying, we don't like to admit to that. That's history, man. Now, I don't think we should be overly zealous chrono-necromancers. That's the thing. We don't want to be chrono-supremacists. We don't need to go around and be like, oh my God, look at how good we are today. It's like, really? You know, like 100 years or something like that, if we actually have delicious filet mignon, and you just push a button, it comes out or something. It's like, can you believe people would kill a cow for that? Now, all due respect to my friends over in India, I realize that's sacred. I apologize for that. The only thing I have in exchange at the moment is...
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style.
God, I'm so glad I found that video. Welcome, Jen. Good to see you. Good to see you. What? Oh, no. Wasn't I don't know what that means. I think that's one of the guys for Apple, but Oh, well, the Pareto principle apparently is a thing. And yes, welcome Eleanor as well. Welcome one, welcome all. So we're talking about community drama and what is potentially going on. So while I'm saying this, let me actually play. Oh, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to get fancy here. I know. So let me actually go to my channel because I think I had a video about this. That's the good thing about being a YouTuber. Once you've been here for a while, you start to actually realize that if you've done a bunch of videos on topics, some of these things seem to be coming back. Why? Well, I don't necessarily know, but where was it? Oh God, no! I put that in too many times. Yeah, don't search 2020 when you're actually covering every single freaking plague news conference for like the first 2 months. That drained the soul. Oh my God! All right, so it was just Happy New Year. There we go. All right, is what we're gonna get. We're gonna do that. We'll see if we can maybe bring some folks on that maybe wanna talk about some words on the internet. All right, here we go. We got that. As I'm going to continue narrating exactly what I'm doing here, as to avoid dead air, because apparently that is a thing. We're going to hit that there. Ah, yes, wise words from Doc. We got to make sure to share the audio so we're not a complete and utter noob. And we're going to play this right now. Here we go. Let's roll this beautiful bean footage as soon as I straighten out. There we go. Lucky.
From the memes of destruction. Roses are red, violets are blue. I like turtles. I hope you do too.
Oh, how sweet.
What a poet.
Do you think that there's any hope for the interwebs, for the people on the interwebs, especially those people who are quote unquote content providers, to get smarter, to be able to learn from their mistakes?
You want to know what the internet is full of?
Okay.
Yeah, not all, but a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Those kids who were such freaks in grade school that they were bullied into silence and then lived their entire lives in silence. They now can come onto the internet and pretend that that's not the case. That's what the internet's full of.
You mean
Hey, stop talking about me.
That pickle.
you mean like the kind of people who made sock puppets so they'd have friends?
Like the kind of losers who are anything but, say, for example, a man, and decides to compensate for it by going online and acting hyper-masculine. I'm sure you could think of a few people that I'm thinking of.
You know what the saddest part about that is? That there are like at least a half dozen examples that immediately come to mind.
That's, like I said, it's full of them.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you would think that people, if they wanted to have an internet presence, they would spend more time on creating or enhancing their presence instead of trying to punch down or shit on other content providers or content creators. I think I'm getting tired. Fuck. Yeah, I would hope that, because really, if people are doing this for money, they are way off base. But if they're doing it, just as a hobby to have fun, then why don't they enhance their product? Because I know there are people out there who will make the drama just so they can get more views. But we know quite a few people that they have a high sub count, but it's a dead sub count. Like they tuned in once or twice.
Yeah, there are a lot of people I know who like to brag about how many subs they have, and it's like, but how many viewers do you have?
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's the only, at any given moment, that's the only thing that matters. Sub count is past history.
Yeah, I mean, you would think they would take pride in the amount of people that are coming back to watch, in earnest. Now I know there are other YouTubers out there that feed off of the hate watching. A couple names come to mind, but it's one of those things. If they think you suck, and it's the whole Howard Stern principle, because they did a study and they're like, well, on average, the people who say that they like you watch for an hour, but the people who hate you watch the whole show. Because they're like, oh, what's he going to say today? I don't think there's anybody charismatic enough to pull that off anymore. And shame on them for trying. Because that just essentially means that they're not focusing, really any time on themselves to create any type of special content. It just, it makes the mind wobble. I can't believe I just quoted Kelly Bundy. I'm going to light this cigarette now.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else to go with the vid, so I ran out of gas on that one.
Okay, part of the reason I do that is because I just want to smoke a cigarette and not want to do it on, oh my god, what's playing in the background? I don't even know. Oh my god. Oh, that intro was so loud. Hopefully folks didn't hear that. But that was posted at the end of the year, what was it, 2019? Seems like so long ago. But why the heck did I play that? Aside from enough time to smoke a cancer stick, it also allowed me to send out some potential links to people in case they feel like joining, in case they wanted to discuss the quote-unquote community drama, just because I see these things again and again. I'm just seeing the same patterns and everything. It's like, oh, and to be fair, I totally have felt the same thing, because I've seen some people, it's like they pop onto a stream, somebody's on, it's like, oh, come on to the stream. It's like, well, I'm not going to go because this person is here. And that makes me sad. And I actually found myself doing the same thing. It's like, oh, I'm kind of distancing. Because was it just that? No, I don't think so. I don't want to think so. Maybe it was. Then again, I am a terrible human being. As a half Jewish dragon kid on this internet stuff and things, I think that's a default. But with everything happening again and again, I'm just like, I see these same circles. I'm seeing these same things. It's like you see some folks out there, and it's like, how are you doing? Everything is good. Oh my god, everything is fantastic. And it's like, okay, I'm cool with that. I'm all about positivity. Just, be genuine. That's the thing. Yes, I acknowledge, Faraday, I am a total boomer. That's fine. I was about to say something. It's all right. I'm actually monetized on Pornhub now. Yay! I wonder what that's telling of. I have no idea. But welcome, K-Shell. Welcome to the discussion. So, is what we're gonna do. Basically, I was hoping we could have a few other people on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna temporarily throw a link out in the chat. I will withdraw it after a very short period of time, just because apparently I've seen people do that. Just because I work a heck of a lot better when there's actually other people around. Because I can talk forever about anything. I'm just gonna like ADD from here to there and everywhere. But it's important to actually listen to people, and especially folks that, in my opinion, push back. Because that's my big thing. With everything that's going on, there's a little linky link right there. With all the things going on, I'm just like, wow. I just keep seeing this going on and on and on. And it just seems so mind-numbing. Like, why don't these people actually talk to each other? Why? So much of the... Because I'm sitting back, I'm listening to these rumors, these scandalous things. And it's been going on for a while, and apparently it seems to be blowing up more and more. This is the thing. Just be straight up with folks and stuff, and preferably take care of it behind the scenes. That's why it's like been reaching out to folks for a while. I've had folks coming to me making some claims about things. It's like, all right, well, there might be certain folks out there within quote unquote positions of power that basically it almost sounded like there was a list. Now, I'm not saying there's a list, but apparently, if we're going to base so much stuff upon rumors and things that other people said hearsay, I don't even want to say that. It just really seems like you see a lot of the same people. And you know what? That's cool. That's cool. But I thought one of the things was for people to grow together. And to be fair, again, I'm not Fandom Menace. But then again, as a Fandom Menace orbiter, as a skeptic community orbiter, as a paranormal community orbiter, I think these things are important because the faster we can understand each other, and this is the thing with modern mimetic theory. I'm like, all right, well, tensors are used to help gauge and figure out like what's happening in the physical universe. Well, doesn't that mean like maybe there might be like mimetic tensors or something that we could perhaps identify? We could actually isolate these things and actually, I don't know, maybe level up a little bit our discussion. We can better understand our fellow creature. That's all I'm really saying right there. Oh, and we have a Jen. Welcome, Jen. How are we doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm just dandy. I
know how it feels to be struggling solo on a stream, so I thought I'd come in and save you, because that's my whole shtick. Got the Superman archetype operating in my subconscious. But yeah, like it's hard for me to know what you're talking about, because I don't really tend to drift towards drama. But like, can you just say like generally what these groups are?
The big thing I've run into with so much of my time on the internet, it really doesn't seem to matter which community, whether it's on the old school online forums, whether it happens to be a YouTube community, a Twitter community, or something. It's like somebody says something, somebody does something, it goes beyond the pale. We delve into these like purity spirals, our own little safe space corners and stuff with the people that tell us, oh, you're doing the right thing. It's okay. Those people, the big baddies and everything, again and again. And I'm just like, I think a lot of this can be avoided, because all I remember is I played the game of telephone back in the 6th grade. And when the teacher said one thing and it got all the way back to her, I'm like, it was something completely different. So with the increase in the velocity of the information within this internet stuff and things, and especially on social media, it's not like anybody might say something off the cuff that maybe was a quote unquote joke that maybe from somebody else's perspective they took seriously, went to this other person's like, can you believe the mean words they said about you on the internet?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you could avoid it. Like, just from my own experience, when I started going on the internet, because I really didn't have much of an internet presence before I was in the media. I don't know if you know about that, because my yoga class got canceled. I was all over the news for a few weeks there. Anyway, it's a stupid story.
Oh, okay.
It's a worthless, stupid story that's not even worth telling. But anyway, I was around after that because I figured it would be a good platform to tell people about my science theory. Because it's like, okay, I got people's attention now over something, trivial. Might as well bait and switch to use it as an opportunity for education, right? And there was like a probably 1.5 year smear campaign against me. And I'll type in the private chat what they called me, but I don't think we should say it on the stream.
Well, I mean, that's not very cool right there. I'm just looking at it, I'm like, well, that's a very mean thing to say. I mean that sounds kind of racist.
This was a concentrated smear campaign, basically, that it was talking points people had received from on high, and they just kept saying it.
Hold on, wait. Are you saying the same techniques that professional media companies and organizations happen to go through, where they might get your standard bullet points on your daily memo, might get repeated again and again to where they could make a montage of saying, our democracy, yada yada yada, and then you see like that, like hundreds and hundreds of people literally saying the exact same words right around the same time.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is their democracy, isn't it? But the point
Right.
is that not everybody who goes on the internet is going to get gang stalked.
Right.
But if you have something to say that is of importance, you'll have people opposing you in proportion to how important what you're saying is. Because we have two things. We have this approach of, I guess you could call it what is it? Depersoning someone or
Ad
dehumanizing
hominem
someone.
attack, yeah, dehumanize. It happened in World War II.
Yeah, like an endless, ad hominem stream with the hopes that people will just disregard everything you say because a bunch of other people said you were this thing that they thought would make people not listen to you, right?
People give them a very bad smell associated with them. Yes.
But that's not going to happen to everybody on the internet. Like, people talk about gang stalking. It's like, that could just be paranoid delusions that people have. But the number of people that said it to me made me think that there was some kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, centralized marching orders.
When the percentage of interactions you have on this internet stuff and things exceeds a certain threshold, or even it doesn't even need to, depending on how large you are. I mean, if you happen to be a channel with like hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers or something like that, it's all of a sudden, even if it's 0.1%, I mean, like you're getting that in like your inbox or emails or comments and stuff like that. It's like, I think it's just an adaptive thing that we have as human beings. We put our eyes towards threat. That's the thing. It's like you see all these great comments that can inspire you and everything, but you see negative things, very often that sticks in your head. I think universal truth number 6, our minds tend towards the worst place.
That's true. That's why people like drama and they slow down for car accidents, right? It's like, why do people slow down for car accidents? You're not in any danger. I mean, if you had a car accident, you probably wouldn't want people slowing down and ogling you, right? But it's
I also don't want to get hit too. So
it's
an
animal thing. It's a vestigial thing. We are drawn to things that profile in our subconscious as something that could be a threat. And drama is more threat arousal than, other things that would actually be beneficial for people. Right. But my point is that not that people are getting gang stalked on the internet in a large way. I mean, it does happen, but I think the majority of the behavior is because the leaders are giving a very bad example. So everybody's basically, when an animal is beaten, they can become feral and snappish, right? Like a dog that was raised with a loving family versus one that was like beaten would be more dangerous, right? So people are largely in the like beaten dog, downtrodden vibe where they're just like, they're very defensive and they snap to react. That's because of the example that's been set by people who do have a profile who basically are extremely harsh towards any dissenters. Now, you can argue, well, they need to be, blah, 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 but that's nevertheless what happens. So I think if we acknowledge that, and then we also acknowledge that we don't want to have that, it is possible to build a community, but you have to have rules. It falls apart without rules. And a lot of people just really don't like any rules because the internet for them is where they come to blow off steam. It's where they come to do the things that the rules in regular life don't let them get away with. So it is definitely we're starting at we're starting at a disadvantage to try to do what we're doing.
Right, and that's one of the things, and this is often what I hear. I was actually on a stream last night with one of the, as somebody, I don't even think I would even say that I'm necessarily Comicsgate, but I really didn't care as much of what the stuff was going on over there. But apparently one of the individuals that happened to be involved for about the past year or so, what he's done is like, I'll only like read my news on the weekends. I'm stopping the perpetual outrage. Because he even happened to work for, I believe he happened to say the Republican National Committee at one point. He was helping on the greater Hawaii area there. And what he even says, like, there were a number of folks that brought things to his attention within like email and everything. But a lot of the things that people were going nutty bananas about, he's like, well, these are unverified things. And this is basically just claims that are being made. I mean, he said a large amount of stuff that was being brought to his attention kind of seemed like a lot of BS or things that other folks said, as well as welcome.
Is this a politician?
Well, this was somebody. He's not a politician. He happens to be a YouTuber. He reads stories and stuff at night. He has a very melodic voice that helps put you to sleep. But I was talking with him about this a little bit yesterday, and he said he's like, you know what, with that whole movement and stuff, he's like, I was in it for about a year. He's like, it's about 6 months too long. And you know what? I understand. It's like if you have folks that are coalescing around like a shared interest within a community, because I'm like within the greater Dragon Ball community, greater Godzilla community, all these different communities, it's like, all right, I go where there's topics that I'm interested in, as well as like people I happen to enjoy. And I think these are different layers upon different things. And I've even had people that say it's like, well, you know what? I don't even like politics at all. And this is basically all the videos that this particular person makes. But you know what? I'm supporting them anyway. Why? Well, I happen to like them as a person because maybe they associate with folks that I happen to like as well, which is cool. There ain't nothing wrong with that. But my thing is just be honest about what we're doing here.
That's never going to happen, dude. Most people can't articulate because most people can't articulate their honest intentions. That doesn't make them a bad person.
I think
it just means we're not socialized to do that. We're not socialized to articulate our honest intention.
Are you saying we're socialized to lie? Where it's like, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I had the worst day of my life. Oh, I'm doing good. I totally did that the other day too. I even remember. It's like I was tired sick. I should have said that. That would have been a more honest answer. But I think we can acknowledge that. We can try to help move past that because if that's what we're doing and we're conditioned to do that, then the only way to do that is to break the conditioning. It's to go to the hard place. It's to maybe be a little bit more awkward at times because maybe some folks won't accept that. Maybe you won't get invited to all the dinner parties. Not like those are really a thing anymore, unless you count the internet.
Well, you can't launch into a dissertation on the level that you'd need to at a dinner party because everyone's half drunk and you'd need to demand that they pay attention to every word you say and then verify that they understood through every step of the logic. No one's going to want to endure that in a dinner party. I'm
going to disagree with their Jen, and the reason why I'm going to say that is I actually think that's one of the best places. Now, to be fair, I actually withdraw that statement because you just said dissertation. that is correct. That is correct. However, it's just communicating.
Just as an addendum, I take it all back.
Okay, no. I'm listening to the words coming out of my mouth, and then I analyze the words you were saying. It's like, I don't have a dissertation, but I love arguing politics and stuff, and very often I'll push somebody and be like, well, isn't this kind of what you want? I'm like, all right, I'm accomplishing something that maybe more of a lefty would like, but I'm utilizing some quote-unquote conservative principles to do that. And they'll sit back and be like, well, maybe you have a point, memes. If they weren't so much jerks about it, maybe I'd actually be open to it. And it drives me bananas. I'm like, we could actually fix things if we actually had conversations, if we actually maybe, I don't know, got over ourselves or something. It's like, really? And again, I realize a lot of folks come on the internet just to have fun. It's like, dude, my freaking monitor is the freaking beams of destruction here. It's like, I got a freaking like scaly behind me and everything. It's like, I acknowledge some of the silliness here. Why? Because I like to have fun. I do like to troll, but I do also believe in the concept of the noble troll and that you can do things to do better, because I'll see trolls in different people's chats and everything. And people are like, oh my God, somebody gave me a thumbs down. They're a troll. I don't mean they're a troll. Maybe they just didn't like what you were saying or something. And it's just like, to just attribute that to all of one group or community. And then there were also other folks that are like, you know what? Yeah, I just come in here to escape. Some folks do that by just trying to tear everything up. But it's like, very often has been my experience that some of these folks are quote unquote trolling. I'll interact with them. I'll say hi. I'm like, well, they're just so used to and conditioned to people like timing them out, and then they'll come back on an alt and then just bother people again. I'm like, what happens if I actually treated these people like human beings? And the funny thing is, very often they'd say hi back and we start interacting. It's like, all right, yeah, maybe they'll troll, but maybe they'll put a little bit more effort into it. Maybe they'll be a better troll. And I think that's a good thing.
Well, a yogi is a troll that prevents you from crossing the bridge to your own ego. So there is something to be said for not letting people come to the wrong conclusions. And that's what a troll is, essentially, is someone who waits at a bridge and doesn't let you pass and fucks your shit up when you try to pass. But I mean, what is the good of convincing of, like, you have a conversation with someone, okay, and then you convince yourself at the end that you agree. How do you know that you agree?
But you would run through a formulation about how it aligns with other things that you know, you believe, and everything like that, or maybe somebody
And
just
what
used
if
emotional
everyone
appeal.
failed?
So
What if everybody failed that test?
that would be a lot of failure checks and might explain many things.
That's how it is, though. People, I mean, how many people actually know what their motives are exactly and can articulate them? It's no one. People have beliefs that they don't know how to check if they're true, so let alone checking if anyone else's beliefs accord with theirs. So it's to me, it always comes down to like limited resources, right? Like, look at the silver market. How much of that is sold short relative to how much is actually there? So we have to pretend more is there than is in order to get the thing not to collapse, right? So
my dad got a silver tip and it didn't work. Then again, he blames my brother for it. Sorry, side tangent. Continue, Jennifer.
What do you mean it didn't work?
Apparently he sold at the wrong point because my dad has a history of very poor financial decisions.
There's a lot of boomers who are selling into a bear trap in silver right now, and it's like they were never meant to hold money in the first place. Like
none of
historically,
this
the number of
construes any
people
type
with
of
money
financial advice
is
on
low.
the internet.
There's very low number of people historically that have held property, money, anything of any value whatsoever. Most people have been serfs, so they have the karma of serfs. And so to say hoard silver because reasons isn't going to help them because they're still serfs with a bunch of silver. They're not actually in the mindset of a person who could use it to any type of social benefit. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's like, do we agree on how excess resources should be spent to better society? No, we don't. So we can convince ourselves maybe we agree on a couple things ideologically. I think dividing things into a left and right dichotomy is a mistake because I see huge issues on both sides. And also see a lack of understanding on both sides.
I've talked with plenty of good folks on quote unquote both sides and everything. And this is the thing. It's like I talk with some of my lefty friends. It's like, dude, I actually support free speech. I just don't want like hate mobs and stuff coming after people and stuff.
Yeah, but free speech doesn't exist, right? There's no such thing.
We like to say that.
Speech is always restrained to what you know. You can't talk about something you don't understand.
I mean, you could.
So
you have
freedom of speech
the right.
is not real. Freedom of the markets isn't real. Nothing. None of that stuff is real. So it's like once you can acknowledge that these things aren't real and why, then we can have a reasonable conversation because it's all coming down ultimately to resource scarcity.
Well, talking about reasonable conversation. Hail, Stephen. How are we doing, my friend?
Oh, awesome. You got someone else. Now you got a threesome. Now things are really going to get.
So do you want the left or the right chopstick?
This isn't the same guy as last time, I guess.
No, this is not. This is another individual. These are
nice to
people
meet
that
you, Stephen.
Nice to meet you, Church of Entropy. I've actually heard and had you on the back with memes on private when you have previous streams, and I'm like, he got me into the tensor stuff, and I've been kind of like waiting for the next one ever so slightly. The same way I got him to download a game most people don't like downloading, so it's kind of like a give or take tensor right there.
So it's balanced, man.
Tensors is good, but I mean, it's just a generalization of a vector space. So what you really want to learn is vector spaces, because tensors are vector spaces. And, well, I don't know which one it is, but they're just tensors are a more generalized version of vectors.
Good, because you just lost me a vector. Because
I was going to say
I was picturing a box of cereal.
Hurting a little bit, but I think this is best summed up, not completely. Apologies, Jen, by the Gray Jedi Code. Flowing through all, there is balance. There is no peace without a passion to create. There is no passion without peace to guide. Knowledge fades without the strength to act. Power blinds without the serenity to see. There is freedom in life. There is purpose in death. The Force is all things, and I am the Force.
The Force is kind of, I mean, there is something to be said for that type of metaphysics. I mean, you can't move things with the power of your mind, but it's a thing because of our minds are themselves photonic quantum computers and can interfere with each other. So there's a way to quote force people to do what you want.
There's going to be a lot of interference.
I'm just
Thomas,
say
if you
right
want to pop on, man, I'll toss the link in there for you.
I just want to say I'm new to this whole stuff, so I'm not very well science based with the way you guys, you people are. I just don't want to get canceled by someone saying the wrong word.
Did you? Are you any good at logic?
Only when I'm reading the back of a cereal box.
Because I've tried to, it's not possible to remove all the mathematics, but I've removed as much of the mathematical formalism, like the algebra, from my theories for people like you who really don't have much math. But
She
if you're
speaks
willing
things
to
that
learn
other
the
people
logic,
don't like hearing.
well, the logic is the key thing because the mathematics is merely an interpretation using numbers of a logical assertion. You need to understand the logical assertion, and that's a problem even in mainstream science, is that people really understand the algebra, but the logic underneath it, forget about it. So that's what I focused on. So please don't be, all that to say, please don't be intimidated. And
I'm not
Memes is
intimidated.
good. He has a good attitude. Memes is hasn't been intimidated either, and that's definitely a plus.
If I put it this way, if I don't know or understand, I'll ask or tell you I don't understand for clarification.
Yeah, because I like writing a book right now, and I was thinking to myself, like, what questions should people ask to tell if someone is sincere? And I think you kind of just nailed it there. It's, when does a person admit that they don't know? Because if you're dealing with someone that can't do that, you've basically, you're not going to go anywhere.
No, you're not. I live on a kind of like a rule. I think I've told Memes this: the stupidest question is the one not asked. So that's why I'll ask a question if I don't know. I can't pretend to be smart if I know nothing about the subject. You just look like a dumbass in the future. Is that correct?
Pretty much. And I mean, it's a bit bad faith, because if you're just nodding your head but you're not understanding, and then you go in the future of the conversation and reference is made to a prior assertion that wasn't understood and it wasn't remembered, it just clusterfucks the conversation, right? Yeah. So I think it really is about good faith. It's like Memes is saying, well, we got to get on the same page as regards to our intentions. I agree, but we need to acknowledge that the average person doesn't have any awareness of what their intentions truly are, / can't articulate them. And so we almost have to figure out questions to ask people to infer the answer without their own bias from their subjectivity.
So you're trying to, let's say I came on here because I wanted to I'm putting this as a scenario. I came on here because I know Memes, but I want to get to know you because I like your voice. And you ask me, well, why do you like me? And I'm not going to, and then I have to question whether or not I'm doing this for a selfish reason or not. And you're trying to separate the actual logical from the emotional or any type of bias or attachment.
Exactly. So what I'll usually ask people is, tell me when you started caring about this stuff. Like, how old were you, and what happened in your life that made you go on the path of inquiry?
Well, actually, I'm actually really new. It's only been a couple weeks. We interviewed Memes for the show we have on our channel. It's my boss, pretty much, Lorena. It was a lunch table, and he started talking about the connections in between connections, so or the tensor networks, right? And for some reason, when he explained it, I hit it in such a way that I literally started crying, like my eyes watered, because I was starting to see the links of
beauty.
Not just the beauty, but the sorrow in between. That no matter, let's say, if we're coming from a screen generation, Memes is on one screen, I'm on another, so are you. We're forgetting and detaching because we're only seeing an avatar. We're forgetting that the human being is still behind that avatar, and that's the first connection. And then we actually then re-verifying, and we're already second guessing how we've been acting with others throughout all our interactions online, especially for the last year. And then we can nitpick how the tensors were positive, negative, emotionally attached, emotionally outlashed, and it made me think of going, how much of a monster have I been, or how much of a monster am I making myself think I am? And I broke it down that way and kept going. I'm not actually a monster. Do you get it? I'm ADHD.
Yeah. So that was like a deep emotional experience. It was a moving experience. Maybe that was why the tears.
I asked him the next time he did a short stream. I popped on when I could, and I try to get on when he does other stuff. But it's pretty much, it's. For me, it was coming from a connection that we're all the same, because we're all shared the same atoms, and the same, like the conversation can be looked upon as atoms. We're all giving the same type of words, no matter the language, but it's how they're delivered, and breaking the emotional attachment or the selfish attachment or whatever attachment there is to it, to just deliver a phrase without someone getting offended or meaning to get them offended. I'm trying to make this from my basic understanding, and I think I'm sounding like a jumbled puzzle right now.
Well, Memes is kind of good at that. I'm horrible at it. I'm absolutely dog shit at it, and this is why I basically need somebody like Memes to basically say, oh, she didn't mean it like that. Like, even IRL, I had a guy, great guy, and he would just basically, it was like my right hand type thing, where I would say shit and he would just be like, oh, she didn't really mean it like that, right? An explainer, a fixer, a cleaner upper, so to speak. And it's good to be able to like have these combos, because you're articulating to me that it's important. to have people like memes who can be nice.
Well,
when I'm
he's your
sort of like
your tensor. He's right now doing. I'm gonna keep using that word, but he's pretty much the connection between you trying to say what you're trying to say, and he's actually connecting a stranger that doesn't know you but has heard certain things from your conversations and kind of linking a direct conversation even through a screen.
Yeah, I mean it's
we're
awesome.
all connected.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
love
I'm
it.
going to keep using that. I love that. I love the way that looked. I haven't done research, but it's just I've been trying to keep that in my head now, and how I talk to people. Realize that even if you don't think you're being mean, you could be being mean. In how people perception. There's so much that seems to stem out that you can never actually have the perfect question or the perfect answer because each individual is different. The best thing you do is try to associate from that point of view of the situation coming.
You almost have to learn how to mind read. It's not bad mind reading, but a lot of the time it's in the tone of voice, right? Like if I change my tone of voice right now, it would change the total vibe. I'm sure if anybody did, like I could exaggerate it or whatever. And I'm not going to, but like it does change the tone of the conversation. Just before I forget, memes, I sent a link in the private chat. Quantum entanglement has been fucking demonstrated on the macro scale, bro.
Are you talking about the AI stuff, like the computers?
No, well, actually, I don't know how they're. Yeah, it might be. I don't know if they're calling it.
Because I remember technically
computer's
they said,
such a general term.
is, but maybe it quite is. They still sound like there was a little hand waving still. I heard something about that probably like a month or so ago. Hold on, let me bring this up. Let's take a look. Oh, and Peter, if you have a Twitter or something, if you could like kind of just follow me there, just because I personally haven't seen you around here before. That's all. You can follow me at Memes Destruction. I'll put it right in the chat.
Can I ask a question?
Go on.
If I can call you Jen, if that's okay.
Oh, please do. Yeah, everybody calls me Jen. It's all good.
How did Jen meet the Memes of Destruction and survive?
I think it was in Dr. Brian Keating's live chat. He's one of the easiest people to talk to that I've ever met on the internet. There's only a few people that have been easier to deal with than this guy. He's really not that bad.
He's kind of one of our tensors, one of our networks, one of our degrees of Kevin Bacon. That, and I remember, what was it? You were kind of like railing on poor Professor Wolfram and the Wolfram like live stream physics.
I was
chat.
not railing on him. I was trying to
that was
teach
a harsh
them.
word. That was a harsh word.
Them.
You were saying words that they slowly kind of converged around it by the end of the live stream. I'm like, oh, this girl's talking quantum. I'm like, oh, she's got a cute. Let me click on it. All right, I'm gonna subscribe. That's how we
so, and you're writing a book on how to deal with people, or how to ask a question without it taking out of context.
I'm trying to create a culture of increasing knowledge and trying to show people that just because someone claims that they care about science or philosophy doesn't mean that they really do. And that before you go into a conversation or a debate about philosophy, it's important to establish certain ground rules, which I call axioms.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what it is a book about science, because I've come up with a unified field model for quantum physics. I think I got to call it quantropy. What do you think about that?
All I know is, before you delve into quantropy, Jen, can I just point out that what we have on the screen right here is absolutely beautiful. Quantum entanglement is the binding together of two particles or objects, even though they may be far apart.
That's
Their
what I was
respective
saying.
properties are linked in a way that's not possible under the rules of classical physics.
That's what I was saying about Steve, because he was saying he was feeling it. I was like, fuck, science just demonstrated it. Like, science just
look at this, the
love.
goblin right there, the dragons and the scaly representation. I apologize. Continue. Quadronics.
And this is the fucking cool thing that I wanted to talk about specifically. Why didn't they look for macro scale quantum effects prior to 2021 or 2020, whenever they did this experiment? It was only published a few weeks ago, or not even. Okay, why? Do you know the answer?
Nobody said something.
Copenhagen interpretation. Copenhagen interpretation. So a bunch of pencil necks got together, no offense, some of them were smart, about 100 and some odd years ago, and came up with Copenhagen interpretation and decided that quantum effects can only happen on the micro scale. And so fucking nobody looked for them for 100 fucking years.
Are you saying
Think
the
about
boring...
that for a second.
No, Jen, are you saying the boring people were right?
I'm saying they were fucking wrong, and they fucked it up for 100 years.
No.
It took me bashing them over the head for years Before they're
Niels
like,
Bohr people, the other interpretation.
why are they doing this research? Why did it take 100 years to discover this effect? Is what I want to know.
These are good questions. Hopefully, we'll find some answers. I tend to assume it's a very
the
similar
moral
one.
of the moral of the story here is that we don't spend enough time inquiring about axioms because we never should have accepted that axiom in the first place. That's what I'm saying.
We should do our own research and not necessarily just believe what other people were telling us.
We should do our own thinking. We should do our own thinking, and we should accept the limits of our own thinking, and we should find someone who thinks better than us and delegate the rest of our thinking to them until we're able to establish whether we agree with the things that they know.
So apparently, it's a weird phenomenon that Einstein described as spooky
Weird.
action at a distance.
Weird,
But
like what the fuck? Who invokes these words, right? Like it's baffling. Like I saw somebody describe quantum mind as crazy. I'm like, why would you choose that word? It sounds insane.
I mean, nobody would ever try to discredit somebody or something that they said on the internet with just standard talking points or anything. I mean, that would just be lazy.
Yeah, but imagine yourself. You're some sort of you're the person writing this article.
Okay.
What are you
I would
to put the word weird in there? I'm sorry, maybe it's just me.
Oh no, I thank Stephen for talking about Avatar, so I could put up my avatar and do my own smoking and everything. But thank you for reminding me. But its weirdness is what makes it so fascinating to scientists. In new research, quantum entanglement has been directly observed and recorded at the macroscopic scale, a scale much bigger than the subatomic particles normally associated with entanglement. The dimensions involved are still very small from our perspective. These experiments involved 2 tiny aluminum drills, 1/5 the width of a human hair. But in the realm of quantum physics, they're absolutely huge. Is this what it is? That kind of looks like, is that the circuit? Microscopic metal drums? No, it's different. All right. If you analyze the position and momentum data for the 2 drums independently, they simply look hot, says physicist Joel Toolfell. Freudian slip there, folks. Freudian slip. But from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST in the US. But looking at them together, we can see what looks like random motion of one drum is highly correlated with the other in a way that's only possible through quantum entanglement. Well, there's nothing to say that quantum entanglement can't happen with macroscopic objects. Before now, it was thought that the effects weren't noticeable at larger scales, or perhaps at the macroscopic scale it was governed by another set of rules. So I have no idea how the heck this works, but apparently something happened. There was like a vibration or oscillation and stuff, and they basically had the same oscillation or something. Is that what it's saying?
It's saying that the noise profile of one was so correlated with the other that the only possible explanation was entanglement, i.e. that they're both part of the same Schrodinger wave function. Because that's the basic idea with quantum mechanics, right? Is you can describe the system with something called the Schrodinger wave equation.
Right. It's the wave function that's basically going to describe what it's going to follow there. But my thing is, I'm like, all right, aren't these, if these are more or less I mean, couldn't you also just explain that with, all right, they're more or less machined to almost the exact same size and everything, and then what we're able to measure, we're observing appears to be the same, and then also remember from the the little synchronization things, like when you put all the little tick-tock, the clock thingy there.
The only possible explanation for the clocks is quantum. There is no classical explanation for why the clocks ought to synchronize. Now, Stephen, I hope we don't lose you, but I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact that if you put a bunch of tick-tock clocks in the same room, they eventually converge to the same period.
I did not know that, but now I want to try that. I just got to find a bunch
It's fascinating, isn't it?
When you said TikTok, I was picturing a whole bunch of little kids on their TikTok apps all in the same room, just trying
wait,
I always forget the word. What is the word? It's the old clocks, the ones that go tick-tock, tick. What's that thing
like
called?
grandfather clocks, right? Like those tiles, right? You're talking like the actual with the pendulum sync.
Exactly, the pendulum clocks. Like you can't use like a digital clock. That wouldn't work. But if you have a collection,
you have to set it yourself.
The point is that it's a mechanical effect, right? Like the digital clock is displaying something based on a battery, not based on the pendulum clocks are based on mechanical motion, And what we're trying to understand is why, if someone places a bunch of these mechanical clocks in the same room, do they all converge to the same period, i.e. the amount of time it takes for it to go through one cycle? Why does that converge to the same value?
Why is it a lot of people end up clapping at a similar rate?
Could it be if they're in the same room, the same? I don't know anything about it. So let's say that the surface is flat where it is. They're all in the same room and has the same, like, it's all in the same field, gravitational field, everything. That's maybe it's just a way of the universe trying to balance out something that seems off. Maybe
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The point I'm making is that classical mechanics cannot predict this effect. You need to invoke quantum mechanics, because what you need to say is that each of these clocks has a waveform, and these waveforms will seek to minimize the amount of work that they do on each other, and that will happen when they're lined up in their oscillation phase.
Now, do you think what you said right there, Jen, do you think that is that a potential bridge between classical and quantum? Like when you use the term
there is no
oscillation.
classical. The classical is an illusion, man. Excuse me while I go smoke a bowl, right? There is no such thing as classical mechanics. Classical mechanics is something that appears to be true in a very fine band because of us.
It works on our particular level, because
it appears to be true based on how our visual cortex renders what we perceive. We perceive continuous objects, right?
It's good enough to get a lot of things done thus far.
Well, we really don't have any means of perceiving anything other than continuous objects, right?
I think that would just make our heads hurt and minds maybe explode.
Well, what are we fundamentally biologically as contrast detectors? We're always detecting a contrast, light and dark, dangerous, not dangerous, beautiful, ugly, right? Like snakes, that's our basis is detection of contrast.
Yeah, those snakes that Professor Peterson warns us about. It's like, oh, something's slithering in there. Oh, am I going to die?
So in order to do that, we have to render what we perceive as distinct continuous objects. Like we never realized that things were made up of atoms and shit before we actually did the experiments. We assumed they were made out of continuous matter. We assumed it was some other explanation. We didn't have the right metaphysics off the bat, is my point. And the reason for that is that we wouldn't be alive if what we saw was what was really there, because it would be an overload. We only see the band that's directly relevant to our survival, is my point.
Right. Oh, and it's Stephen. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Have you ever heard the term quark, like within like science or physics or anything?
I think I have, but I've heard it more from Star Trek DS9.
Right. But essentially, Jen proposes, and I've been looking into this more, and I'm like, wow. But she's like, no, I think a proton is basically the smallest thing, because people say that like protons and neutrons, basically they're made up of like different quarks and stuff. And I'm like, well, we've split it and stuff. And I kept doing more and more research. I'm like, these are just theorized. Maybe we're observing what we believe are quarks, but as far as actually breaking apart like a proton or a neutron per se, well, aside from just a neutron emitting electron and or a photon, like we don't necessarily know quarks are real. We think they're real, although at least a lot of people do. But Jen brought this to my attention. I'm like, huh. That's fascinating. Continuing with the article. This new research suggests that this is not the case. In fact, the same quantum rules apply here too, and can actually be seen as well. Researchers vibrated the tiny drum membranes using microwave photons and kept them in synchronized state in terms of their position and velocities to prevent outside interference, a common problem with quantum states. The drums were cooled, entangled, measured in separate stages while inside a cryogenically chilled enclosure. The states of the drums are then encoded in a reflective microwave field that works in a similar way to radar. Previous studies has also reported on macroscopic quantum entanglement, but the new research goes further. All of the necessary measurements were recorded rather than inferred, and the entanglement was generated in a deterministic, non-random way. Huh. That's interesting.
Right, so how can you attack this thesis? You can say that the measurement device caused the appearance of entanglement, which was not there before.
That's right. That's basically what we were talking about, like with the cosmological constant and stuff, right?
we want to keep people on their toes so that they don't overstep the observer effect, because that's where the problems start. Because they're thinking that, well, if only my measurements weren't reducing my system, but it's like, it's a quantum system. Your measurements are reducing the waveform. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a quantum system. So, not to be unfortunately, science only is good if you are a bit of a nitpicker this way. But I wanted to share another article which doesn't actually come out and say that it's a quantum effect, but this is also a quantum effect that staring into someone's eyes for 10 minutes can induce an altered state of consciousness, because there's an entanglement happening through the eyes.
They say the eyes are the window to the soul, and I don't know. We seem to be getting more and more evidence for us. This is getting very creepy. I'm getting very
these ancient fables. They're all there's a reason these ancient, even if they're not true in the sense that we would call things true. There's a reason these ancient fables arose and are salient, right? Like, how old is that saying?
That's why I sit there and I'm like, the more and more I look into it, I'm like, huh. A lot of our old stories and stuff, like, especially if you just get this new knowledge in there and you factor it in, I'm like, they kind of hit a lot of nails on the head, at least in some of these respects. And I'm just like, wow. And I go back to Arthur C. Clarke. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I like wizards.
I have to cut in quickly because I do have another promise. I have to go. I have to be on another show soon.
Oh, man.
And I'm going to be dead honest. Like, this sounds great. I'm confused as hell. I'm not going to lie, but I'm willing to learn more.
Everybody is.
Yeah.
Everybody is. So don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad. I just feel
everybody
like...
gets confused by it. I mean, even me. I've worked on this for decades, and there are still things that throw me for a loop because it's what you call counterintuitive. Because we're not designed to think this way. We're designed to survive, right? Which is like, what's directly in front of me, right? But we push past that and then get past the counterintuitive stuff. And it's always a bit of a challenge, but you actually get results. So I'm really glad you came on, and it was great to meet you, and enjoy your next show.
Okay. Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that, Memes. I will try to come back in the future where I'm not always busy. I'm getting the book a whole Saturday off. I almost swore. Almost did it.
No worries. These things fucking happen.
The way I'm trying to understand this, and I'm probably wrong here, is like you guys are trying to break the fourth wall of how humans perceive the world and the universe.
We are interrogating axioms, which are suppositions that are tacit and unspoken. We're speaking them. What has to be true for this thing to be true? Because one of my teachings is that any assertion containing information has at least one axiom. So we want to look at those axioms and answer the question, are they real, or is it something we came up with because it helped us to survive and is ultimately not going to help us understand science because it was not necessarily the reality or truth or whatever, just like what I was talking about before with, like, we didn't always understand atoms and stuff. Even though that's actually more correct than what we thought before, it doesn't mean that what we thought before was worthless.
All I know is I'm memeing Deadpool.
Why? Oh, because I said that? There.
No,
does that help?
Oh. Well, when in doubt, just bust out the continuity gem.
How about
because
Gary
you can
Busey?
always redo a few things there.
Yeah. You like my muscle, Busey?
Oh. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know. I'm monetized on Pornhub now. That's all I know.
Oh, no. It was lovely to meet you, Jen. Memes, it's always a pleasure. I hope to have you on eventually, too. But, yeah, this is like a whole lot of knowledge and a lot of stuff that I'm going to have to slowly try to learn about. But I'm trying to understand it, but I'm getting it. So I'm not getting it. I'm trying to get it. I'm not going to lie. I'm trying to. This is crazy. That's all I got to say. Not in a bad way.
Nope. Knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe. And with that, I wish you all a good evening and good night and good morning.
Peace out, Steven. We'll see you, brother.
Bye. Yeah, so
Bye.
I put a link to my blog in the private chat.
I have it. Thank you.
If Steven wants to check that out, and I'm always around to have combos and stuff.
Awesome. I will follow it and add it to my bookmarks. Cheers.
All right. We're making friends. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love my latest post because it like actually explains a lot more of the theory than my other posts, which are more just logic. Because you have to go into logic a lot so that people understand why the things they believe currently are not correct. So you got to sort of take out the wrong stuff and then put in the right stuff. So that my latest post, the monad one, is pretty much all just the right stuff.
Well, but
Nice to
sometimes
see it.
people don't like to hear things that they don't want to hear. I'm just saying my experience has been, it's like you'll hear people say things. I'll listen to these things, and I'll listen to other things that these people have to say. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, I'm hearing something that I've heard other people within these people's valence have said, but I'm like, based upon what I've heard this other person say before, that kind of contradicts this. And I'll probably far too often, and probably explains why I don't always or often get invited to certain places, is the sheer fact that I'll often say in as few words as possible a violation of something that maybe they care about.
Well, that's why you it's sort of like save yourself for marriage type deal, right? It's like you don't have the convo unless the person is worthy, because you already know through experience that it's going to end in a shit show, and you don't want a shit show.
I
So
mean,
that's something
personally,
I always need to
yeah.
remind myself, because I tend to get bored of conversations that aren't about deep subject. But I
Yeah.
can't expect others to give a shit. Even if they say they care, what I have to do is find out whether they really care through their actions than just what they're saying. Because people virtue signal, you know? Science is cool. Of course I believe in science. It's like, okay.
Wait, hold on a second, Jen. Are you saying that people would virtue signal on the internet?
I'm saying people don't necessarily know what their own motives are. So it's like, is that a lie? No, it's just a person who doesn't have a lot of self-awareness.
I mean, we justify, I think, the amount of mental gymnastics that some of, I know, at least I totally do, or at least have, and try to not do quite as much now. It's just like, all right, what was the reason I did that? Was it for this reason that I'm going to say that is always virtuous? Or am I saying it's like, oh, I want to be famous? It's like, well, I'd love to be famous. I totally acknowledge that. It's like, I want to be Hokage. Why? I like anime. And it seems like a noble goal. And I don't know. It's like, well, if I'm at least honest about it, does it make it better? I realize that maybe that's a trope you're not supposed to say like what you actually think. Why? Well, because we must follow the particular narrative that is laid out before us within this particular group, this clique, this community, wherever we are on this internet of stuff and things. We must make sure we have this mask on. We must ensure that we are of a particular way, because otherwise people might say things that we don't have answers for. So then we might have to think about things, or just feel like all the snuggles of, oh, you're doing such a good job. You're such a good way. There's my kitty. I want to hug my kitty.
It's master versus slave morality, right? Like the epitome of slave morality is conformity. So if you want to go and fit in with the herd, you have to just espouse their talking points. If you just repeat exactly what they say, they don't care what you believe. They just want because they don't have a very large self-image. So they just want their own opinions basically said right back to them. Because anything other than that is too confusing.
Now,
but then master morality is about actually knowing things and axioms and stuff. So you have to sort of establish if somebody can handle master morality before you even broach the topic in the first place, in my opinion.
Now, is there anything inherently wrong with that, aside from maybe wanting people to think a little bit more for themselves? Because I mean, that seems to be a tool of survival.
What? Wrong with what, though?
I mean, just maybe kind of like, I'm not a big fan of the terminology there, but I get the gist of what you're saying there.
Is there anything wrong with espousing slave morality? No. Slave morality master morality is a subset of slave morality. So they work together. So it's sort of a crass way of putting it, but I'm not aware of any other way to phrase it. Okay, so I'm not saying it in like a horrible dungeon way. I'm just saying it in a general, like, think of it like with the computers. You know how they have the master and the slave.
They're thinking about renaming those things, and that's probably not necessarily the worst of things. I basically you have leaders, and then you have other folks that seem to kind of just be following along there. That's why I get the gist. Is like certain folks are kind of like setting the agenda. they're kind of like deciding it's like a company, and just like you have this, it seems, within different communities. And you know what? That's why I'm asking, is there anything necessarily inherently wrong with that? Because
What's wrong is to LARP as what you're not. It's wrong to claim to be a master if what you're espousing is slave morality. That's basically that. When I get into fights with people, that's why. It's because I have to slap them on the nose and say, you're not a master. Your only duty is conformity. So don't LARP that you can actually make an assertion of fact, right? Those are two different things. Assertions of facts and assertions of conformity are completely different. And when people confuse them, yeah, that's bad because it confuses all the people who are only capable of practicing slave morality. Because in order to do master morality, you have to perfect slave morality. You can't just jump to master morality. And that's the problem most people make, right? Like they want to be the guru. They want people to come to them and seek out their genius expertise, but like nobody's actually buying what they're selling, right? So that's where it becomes bad. They're not bad or good, but it becomes bad when you go against what you are.
Now, how would we identify this? Because you say if you're acting like you're something you're not. Now, when this comes to mind, would this perhaps be demonstrated if you had certain individuals that are saying these things are very important? We maybe shouldn't care as much about, oh, these people are complaining. Look at them right here. Well, people are saying mean things about them over on the internet. And they're like, well, get over it. People say mean things on the internet. And then if we were to see some of these same people come back not all that long later saying, oh my God, can you believe the mean words people said about me on the internet?
Well, that's like, obviously, that's 100% slave morality because master morality is not about people. It's about ideas. So as soon as people are saying, oh, so-and-so said such and such, you know you're dealing with slave morality. Because master morality is not at all. It's about like tensors, right? It's about knowledge. People and knowledge is two different things. Some people can have a lot of knowledge, but people are not equal to knowledge. So
right.
I already know who I'm dealing with. If somebody is obsessed with personality drama, then I already know that my only issues I'm ever going to have with them is when they LARP as a master, and I'm going to have to say, sorry, you are not a master.
Is this where the phrase "whom do you serve" comes into play right here? Because I can see Live at the Love Shack is
well, that's why like you've got to perfect slave morality first. Who do you serve? And you got to answer that question for yourself. You know, some of us will say God, some of us will say truth, some of us will say myself, but you got to be honest with what you're serving, because you're going to have to make sacrifices in service to your supreme ideal if you're ever going to hope to espouse master morality.
In instances
it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody though. So I'm trying to break it down so people don't feel bad for not being a master. It's like, if you're not meant to do that, don't. Stop feeling like you have to.
I mean, I personally would prefer to serve French toast. I mean, that's a point of personal preference. But as far as going through, I think, and again, I get the gist of what you're saying. It's just the words you're using. And again, I understand you're Canadian and everything.
Well,
but
you have to inquire.
They also
have
have
to
additional
inquire
context.
why you get a cognitive dissonance when I use those words.
Because there was a history of slavery in these United States, and
but there's still slavery.
Things.
There's still slavery now.
The 15th Amendment is still a thing. Yeah.
Well, everybody's a slave now. Before, 75% of people, maybe, or however you want to argue it. I mean, anywhere from 25 to 75% of people were slaves back in the day, and now 100% of people are slaves. So yeah, it's touchy because we're all slaves. Nobody owns any property.
I mean, well,
because of fiat currency, right? So tax system.
Don't get me wrong. I totally believe there are issues, but I do also have to disagree with that. I mean, well, technically, I do own a small amount and everything.
We can't own property. We're all slaves. The only property that's genuinely owned is the property without taxes on it, and there's no such thing as that.
Oh, we're leasing things. Okay, no. Okay, I get the gist of your vibe. I get the gist of your. These are the things that make you go, and everything. I'm just saying there, but. How would we go about correcting things like this? Like if we happen to see folks, especially folks that if we happen to like them and we think that they can do better. How can we better help guide people along a more positive path?
You stop having expectations of anybody but yourself. You take responsibility for everything that happens to you. Even if you're not responsible, you still take responsibility, because that ultimately is what's going to give you the most autonomy over the ultimate outcome. So that will, because a lot of the times people get upset with other people because they're not reflecting their virtues. It's like, how could you not agree with me? I thought we were friends, right? That's just because of an unrealistic expectation. It's projection. You're projecting your own virtues on other people, and that's why higher karma people suffer. Lower karma people suffer because they're at the whims of smarter people. They have no clue what's going on. So they're basically just getting herded around under they have to presume the benevolence of other people, basically.
See, I
people
think
who
most
are
folks-
not that way, people who want autonomy, they have to do it by the right beliefs. And the belief that you're responsible for everything that happens to you is what will ultimately, even if it's not true, I'm not saying it's true, because what happens to us is a confluence of factors. We are not strictly self-determined. We are partially determined by our environment, but we don't control the environment. We only control ourselves. So it's a belief that is useful, although not true. So you could call it a noble lie. It's just a lot easier to do it that way, because when you get out of a bad exchange, you could spend a lot of time thinking, well, what the hell was that person's problem, blah, blah, blah. Or you could say, well, how could I have interacted better that wouldn't have led to this horrible shit show? Because we always have the opportunity to de-escalate, right? But people, by and large, don't want to de-escalate because they perceive that subconsciously as a slight to their honor. And because we have so little honor, because we're all slaves, we don't want to let go of any more. We see that as like a major, because the less you have, the more you sort of hold on to it, right?
Right. Yeah, and unfortunately, this is one of the reasons why I suggest we re-legalize dueling.
Well, that in and of itself is not going to change anything. Because you're still not solving the question of who legitimizes the duel.
That would have to be done within
obviously
legislation.
dueling, a purely dueling with no contingencies would just lead to a strong man thing, which is not stable, because strong men are not smart by and large.
Well, you know, additional context is needed. What would prescribe the initiation of this duel? What would the process be? What's the attempted reconciliation before that? And again, this is work that I need to do, that has been assigned to me, that I have yet to fully investigate, to really investigate it
Well,
all.
there's only one
My
answer.
apologies, Nuvid.
There's only one answer, though: the theocratic dictatorship. And even that doesn't always work perfectly, but that is the only answer, because the only thing that can legitimize a duel is a theocratic dictatorship. And it has to be perceived as legitimate, which is not easy.
Yeah, but then you're running at the whims of, we hope we get the benevolent queen or king, or we might get the tyrannical king or queen.
You have a class of people who legitimizes the ruler. So the duty to choose the ruler is distributed within a class of people, which constitutes 1/4 of the citizens, approximately.
That sounds like Parliament.
No, it doesn't.
That sounds
Parliament
the
is
House
a
of
bunch of
Nobles.
shills elected through money and voted for by morons. You have no control in a democracy. You would have more control, but you can't let people have arbitrary control, because some people don't give a shit about the consequences of their actions on other people, and that's an issue for stability, right? So ultimately it comes down to finite resources, right? Like, how are we going to run things so that the next generation, i.e. us reincarnated, will have a reasonably good shot at whatever it is that we're all striving for. So we need to know firsthand, what is it that we want out of society? Because then we need to turn around and make people accountable for that outcome. That's where the real problem is accountability, right? Like, there's nowhere to point the finger. There's these like shills that are the figureheads. Oh, well, we'll vote for the other color, this season because this show was bad. Oh, it's like, well, they're both bad.
Wait a second. Yeah, are you saying there might be a form of a cycle or something where it's like, oh my God, look at all these quote unquote bums. Let's vote the bums out. My apologies to anybody on the street that's homeless, but for this metaphor, I shall complete at the moment. Okay, so we vote these bums out, and then we vote these new bums in, and then we more or less see the same thing. Okay, let's vote these bums out and vote these other bums in. I apologize to anyone that's
All you
struggling
have
on
to
the
do
street.
is look at the history of Canada's prime minister. It basically oscillates from conservative to liberal to conservative to liberal to conservative to liberal. Right. So it's like
I'm
clearly
boomerang there. To be fair, that actually might be true, Jen, because one of the reasons why, from at least the research I've done, why dueling was outlawed here, and I believe in Austria as well, was because of duels between military officers. That's basically the reason they kind of got rid of it, or at least
the guy
driving
saying
factor.
that the military dictatorship can legitimize the duel. No, it can't.
Well, I mean, it would be a
Because
dictatorship.
the military is not fit to lead the country because they don't care about that. They care about winning battles. So it's a misallocation of resources to think the military could run a country. It's going to do a better job than other possible organizations, but it doesn't mean it's actually going to work.
I apologize, MBR. Hopefully, we still do not need a fight to the death. Yeah, it was a good run.
Well, the idea is that it means something, right? And what does it mean to have a duel? Incentives-wise, your honor has to have a way of going up or down.
It shows you have skin in the game. It shows that you are willing to literally die for something you believe in that's precious to you.
Yeah, honor.
Right.
So people have to care about honor for that type of system to work, and a lot of people don't. They'll just stab you in the back of the quickest opportunity to make 10 cents, right? So this system will not work if people are shit.
But
so shit people are just basically doomed to have shit governance.
Well, if some people start to do it, might other people start to do it as well, especially if they saw incentives?
Well, it's honor is self-incentivized, so you have to care about your honor.
Right.
And thereby, have a movement that people also decide to care about their honor. I don't know how else you can do it. But a duel is basically settling a difference of honor, and the winner takes the honor.
Right.
So there has to be a system set up that rewards the winner of the duel.
Could we have them earn DKP?
I don't see any other system than an honor system working. But that's just me.
Now, the reason why I suggest that, and again, I fully acknowledge it's a bad idea.
I don't even know what you're asking.
What I'm saying is I see a lot of folks, especially on this Internet of Stuff and Things, that seem to kind of be making a big deal out of things that I'm not sure they're as big a deal, which ends up kind of breeding like distrust and hatred between different people and everything, and that escalates. And then somebody does something to somebody, someone else does it to somebody else. I'm just like, if these people truly hate each other, rather than all this quote unquote behind the back and all of a sudden people talking smack when somebody else is around, if you got a problem with somebody, it's like, okay, talk like human beings to another human being. Or if you have absolutely irreconcilable differences, I feel like consenting adults, we should give them the ability to engage into mortal combat, to be sent to whatever god they wish. That's all.
Well, they'll be reincarnated, right?
I mean, hopefully. I mean, if you want, hopefully you'll get a better take, or maybe your karma will adjust what ends up happening. Oh, we still need to talk about. See, I'm actually curious about the collective consciousness per se. I realize it's a whole can of worms and everything. I just went into it, but all I know is I think maybe it has something to do with the wave function. Maybe it's something to do with the wave function. But all of a sudden, I'm paying attention to two separate things. And again, maybe just my mind looking for patterns and synchronicity. All of a sudden, somebody said something in one place. They're talking about a particular topic. I go into somewhere else. And I literally hear the same thing within an extraordinarily short period of time, usually within like a second or two. And I'm like, that's interesting. That's all.
Well, sure, it's a big sphere, right? So as you get to the top of the sphere, there's going to be more resonance because you're closer to all the other. Because if you start at there's only one North Pole, right? But then when you're at the
Unless it
equator, you can
switches.
be really far from other parts of the world.
Oh,
So when you converge to the apex, then you get resonance, which is what you're describing. This synchronicity.
it's all I know is I do not have a plane. My apologies. Maybe at some point we'll see what happens. Eleanor, Jen is a happily married woman, as well as yes, MVR. I realize we've been going on for an hour and a half. This was labeled as a community drama stream, and I did put the little picture of the dumpster and like floating away that's on fire and everything. Rule 14.
Yeah, right. So people who
okay,
who
well, I
can't even
apologize for.
people who aren't bored, people who get bored with a 5-minute explanation of an honor culture are not suited to an honor culture. So your dueling LARP won't work for these people.
No, I think they just came to see blood sports and they're not getting blood sports. That's the thing. If I click on something and it's something else, I'd probably leave too. I'm just saying that's kind of how I view it because everyone goes on the internet for different reasons. Some people want to. I'm just saying if this was labeled modern mimetic theory and trying to translate through honor culture, then we're actually advertising, which my apologies.
Well, the honor
for that
culture gets rid of the drama. So the fact that people are pissed that we're talking about the thing that gets rid of drama proves that they love drama and don't want to get rid of it, which was my original point. So all that to say,
I love
I'm
drama.
right again and always will be.
Well, either that or the person might be just trolling, which I tend to. This is the thing. If I see something and if it happens to be criticism, I could say, this person hates me. I'm like, no, I think maybe they're poking a little fun because it also, and this is the other thing that I've noticed with some things that kind of like fall sideways, especially if it's just text-based. If it's somebody sends somebody a screenshot from somebody or something, it's like, oh my God, can you believe the mean things that this person said about me on the internet? It's like, all right, now, was that out of context there? Did somebody perhaps edit it? Because we all know that nobody would go out of their way to just kind of like light a bunch of fires on the internet and just kind of see what happens. Oh, God, I love doing it so much. I try to be good. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I mean, you just have to embrace who you are. The problems start when the deception starts. So the less you can deceive yourself, the better. I mean, even if you have attributes that are not the best beliefs to have, it's better to just be honest because there's no way to get past it otherwise.
Well,
I think I'm the only person on the internet who genuinely doesn't like drama, though. But I get it. I mean, I get why people find it interesting. I just, if you claim to not like it but are constantly pursuing it, yeah, you're going to get called out by someone like me.
This is unfortunately why I just have to say I love drama and did Rule 14 on the internet is everyone loves a gun dumpster fire. Why? Come on and get your log. Everyone needs a log. Come on and get your log. Everyone needs a log. Log from Blammo.
What the fuck is going on here?
I love that so much.
No, it's all good. They'll probably,
yeah.
if people want to see drama, there will probably be people getting triggered. I'm going on Modern Day Debate at some point this coming week. It's either sometime towards the end of the week at 8:00 p.m. Eastern. So if people, I'm sure that I'm not going to create the drama, but I'm sure there will be some because it's 4 people. So it's like, it's going to end up being 3-on-1 with me as the one, but according to the title, it's just going to be 4-person panel. So we'll see.
4-person panel with one person that's disagreed with. Yeah, that's never happened before. Jen, I have full faith and confidence in your ability to hold your own. If you need a tag partner,
watch
I'm
the
totally
pagan,
fair.
the atheist, and the Christian put all their differences aside to attack me. Coming up this week. But yeah, I mean, there probably will be drama, so not by my own desire to have it, but
Love Shack. Some of my friends were actually covering some of the Russia and Chinese military marketing. If you want to look at perhaps things related, perhaps you may want to seek some of those. Now, I'm just saying that was something that maybe got some attention. I may have been on stream earlier. I'm probably going to clip it at some point, but that's really all I got for now. I want to give a shout out to Fat Steven Seagal. I will put his name in the doobly-doo below because well, this is what we do and everything. Especially if somebody actually happens to be there. It's good. As well as I'll put Jen's stuff in the doobly-doo below. Jen, did you have any parting words for the good folks?
Thanks for having me on, and look forward to the next one. And I don't think Weekend Reviews happening this week because Duvid is unavailable, but we'll be back for that next week. And it was nice to meet your friend. Was it Steve? Is that it?
Steven.
Yeah, nice to meet Steven. And yeah, thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for all those in the chat. MBR, Eleanor, Alive at the Love Shack, Parrothead, Dave M, and Joe Franco. This show is helped made possible by my patrons, viewers like you, as well as to everybody that's joined now and may watch in the future. Peace out, everybody.
낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자